Good afternoon. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Oklahoma City Board of Adjustment for May 17th, 2018. Our first order of business is to receive the minutes of the May 3rd, 2018 meeting.
Move to receive the minutes.
We do have one correction. Thank you, Laura. Item number 5, case number 14477, reflects that we continued the item to May 17th. It was actually continued to the June 7th, 2018 meeting, so we need to make that amendment.
Yeah, I'd move to approve the minutes subject to changing the date on that continuance.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to receive the minutes as amended. Please cast your votes, please. And the minutes are received. Next order of business is continuance or withdrawal requests.
We have item number 4, item number 13, excuse me. Case number 14455, the applicant is requesting to withdraw that application.
Is there anyone here that wanted to be heard on that matter today? If not, I would take a motion.
I move to accept the withdrawal.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to withdraw case number 14455. Please cast your votes. And the application is withdrawn. Before we get to individual items, I forgot to mention at the start, I got ahead of myself. Just a couple things, if you would, please silence your cell phones for us, if you don't mind. If this is your first time here and you haven't signed up to speak yet, and you want to be heard on an item, one of these little slips of paper that are right outside the door, feel free to fill one of those out, and we'll call you at the time that it's appropriate. When you get up to the microphone, please start out by giving us your name and address for the record, and make sure and adjust that so we can all hear you okay. So with that, we'll begin the items for separate vote.
Item number 1, case number 14475, request for a variance to the requirement for hard surface approach, parking, and storage area, and for the required landscaping in the I-2 Moderate Industrial District located at 14401 South Meridian Avenue.
Hi, my name is Jerry Garrett. I'm with Garco Leasing, LLC. My address is 14308 South Meridian, and I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
If you wouldn't mind, please tell us a little bit about your application.
This application is, the property there is used as a storage area for Mobile Mini Corporation. Storage containers is what they do there. They have bought 2 other companies and as an additional business. They have a main yard right down the street a couple of blocks, but this yard is going to be applied to their new business that they're beginning, which is rental of frac tanks, roll-off boxes, and water pumps, things such as that. They're starting it off with 1 employee that'll be in a 8x10 office, and probably within a couple of years we will build a full-blown shop and office for that if that's successful. And so that's why we're starting off small to see if it will justify putting up a new place. Probably in the end, if the thing is successful and we build the shop and office, probably going to employ 12, 14 people, something like that.
The application that you presented to us reflects that this is for a startup business, and I sort of sympathize and understand why you would make a request, given that you have other intentions in the future. Or would you at all object to a time limit being imposed on this variance in terms of?
No, I would not object. My idea of a time limit is maybe 2 years. That would give us time to get it started and probably also build the new building. So a 2-year thing would work very well if it did for you guys.
Okay. Board members, questions for the applicant? Is there anyone here that wants to be heard on this matter today? If not, I will take a motion unless there's other discussion.
I move to accept the variance with the 2-year limitation.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the variance subject to a 2-year limitation for case number 14475. Please cast your votes, please. And the application is approved.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Item number 2, case number 14476, request for a variance to permit a detached accessory structure with walls constructed of exterior metal finish that exceed 10 feet in height and exceeding the maximum size of 1,000 square feet in the R1 Single Family Residential District located at 1304 Sunway Street.
John Ray, 1304 Sunway,
Welcome back.
1304 Sunway Street. And I got papers for you. Oh, I'm going to have to pass them down.
I can pass one. Yeah.
I got to make sure I got one. There you go. And there's an extra. I was here 2 weeks ago, and I came a little unprepared, a little nervous, so this will keep me on track. From what I understand, there's 4 things for a variance. I'm asking for a better building, a nicer building than the one I have. We have an old picture, I believe, of what I have available, which is very old. I don't know, do we have the old stuff from 2 weeks ago? Okay. Maybe you guys remember there's a fence with a round roof. But, so the 4 things for a variance is the application of the height and size of the ordinance to a particular piece of property would create an unnecessary hardship. I'm 54 years old. I was born with a limp. You probably noticed when I was walking up. It's all in the medical records from 2 weeks ago on the paperwork. And I'd like a variance on the height to put the camper in so I don't have to get outside in the rain and ice and snow to get in it. So that's for the height of the variance for the camper. 10-foot won't hold some four-wheel drive pickups almost. So the variance on the size for the extra space, I amended that after 2 weeks ago. There's a picture in there later on, I'll show you, or lead to it. It's just for the space for the proper stuff to fit in. Okay? And having the camper on site with the handicap van will, I don't have to do it in the rain, I don't have to do it in the snow, I don't have to do it on the ice. And ice, we're all susceptible to falling on ice. So I just want it there so it's a quality of life, easier to do what I need to do. B, such conditions on a particular piece of property involved, such conditions are peculiar to the particular piece of property. I have the only lot in the neighborhood that's elevated 2.5 feet with a retaining wall. It's right there, it's upside down. So if I build the building next behind it, it won't look that tall. The house is plenty high. The land, the way it drops, will make the building, like I said, won't look so tall. I also have a street that comes straight in on Northwest 10th. It goes straight into the building. If you scroll to the little shed, the building goes straight into it. Or the street goes straight into it. So it will make it easy to back in because I don't have to back into nobody's yard, pull forward. There's a Google map picture, and I put a circle on my property on the next page, page number 2. It shows that Sunway goes in Northwest 10th, goes straight into my building on page number 2. That just makes it, if I circle a block, I don't have to, it'll be easier to handle. The relief, if granted, would not cause detriment to the public good or impair purposes of the ordinance. Don't know for sure if I know what that one is, but if you look at the Google page 2, there's over 100 buildings in that neighborhood. I don't think, and then if you go to page 4, I don't know how this is a house in my neighborhood. If you go to page 5, it's a close-up. No guttering, no landscaping. I'll do guttering, I'll do landscaping. I'm not going to go down in quality. I want to go up in quality. If you look at the shed there, my Ford Explorer wouldn't fit in the lean-to this weekend when the hail was supposed to be coming. So there's 2 pictures of a much bigger building on page 4 and 5. Page 6 is just 2 other ones on the block over. And then page 7 is some different metals. From what I understand, they call them architectural metals that don't look like your normal metal. So, like I said, don't want to go down in quality. I want to build it up. And I got the oldest You know, it's kind of like when you drive down a neighborhood or down streets, you're like, man, I'm so glad they tore that building down, or remodeled that old house, or whatever it is. Sometimes you got to improve on the properties, and so it's a good thing in that way. So let's see, number D, the variance granted would be the minimum necessary. If we go to page 3, from what I understood, I had a little over half acre, I was allowed 1,250 square feet to begin with. So I just wanted 31 feet, 31 point a quarter feet times 40 is 1,250 feet. All I'm asking for, if you look below the requesting, is 3.75 feet wider. If you're out in the street, if you see how long my driveway is there to the building where it would be, the average person or even a professional wouldn't even know it was 3.75 feet wider. That's all I'm asking for is 150 feet wider. If you'll see the drawing, it has a door, 4 feet for the doors on the end, which you have to have 4 feet minimum for a door to open, 3-foot door, and then the 2 overhead doors. And so I downsized it from the request 2 weeks ago. Okay. Any questions?
Board members, questions for the applicant?
Clarified, you're now requesting 35 by 40, 1,400 square feet, just 3.75 feet wider, is that correct?
Yes, then what I would get, the normal is 1,250. So to get 150 more feet, I'm only asking for that much space right there.
Okay, so which building is it going to look like in comparison to what you already have in your wooden structure? Do you have that
As far as
picture?
those pictures, depends on which architectural metal I would pick, but it wouldn't be too much different than, as far as the basic look, page 6, the guy that has the super wide door, the gray building, it'd be a smaller building door than that. I believe that one is 14 by 12 on that door.
Other questions? Is there anyone who wants to be heard on this matter today? I will just say, I understand that in the way that you view it, that it's just 3 3/4 feet, right? It's just the length of your arm. The ordinance that we have in front of us that we are told to apply to this application says that it shall not exceed 1,000 feet. So it's 400 feet is essentially 40% above what's allowed. And we talked a little bit about that when you were
We
here
did.
last.
I just thought that when I had my paperwork, I totally thought it was 1,250 square feet because I thought I had over a half acre, which is under the accessory building rules.
All I know is I have to take the application that's in front of me to interpret the ordinance and apply your application to it against the elements needed to vary that ordinance as it relates to your application. So we're told it's 1,000 feet.
Okay.
And what I would say is when we talked last time, it wasn't that there were workarounds for your variance. We figured out that it could be slightly smaller, and we discussed the not to exceed the 10 feet in height is based on the exterior metal finish. So you have the ability, and I think that's one of the things that really troubles me about the application, is you have the ability to avoid the necessity of a variance, at least as it relates to your exterior finish, right? You can simply choose not to use metal.
That's true. I
And-
called
and-
it was $15,000 to brick, and that's half the price of the $30,000 building.
Sure.
And so that's my answer to that, 50% increase just for brick. And I figured I could do kind of what they do on C3 auto dealerships. They're not supposed to have metal, but they use a architectural metal, which is why I sent that picture. Is that on there? So
Yep.
that's where I was wanting to go, to an architectural metal. 15,000, 50% more for brick. I almost fell out of my chair. Now, can I look around, do some architectural metal for less than 15,000? I sure hope so.
Yeah, I understand. I do. I mean, I do understand that. I think what I would say too is that as it relates to the variance request before us, while it may be more expensive, it's hard. We're not here to decide whether or not that's fair. Our job is simply to interpret the ordinance, right? So we're not legislative in nature. So I respect what you're saying. I don't know what other board members are feeling like. I don't know what our limitations are here to allow some sort of a variance to include architectural metal. I'd have to get some advice there from council as to whether or not we can do that and what we would need to do. But I'll turn it over to the other board members and see kind of where people are. So.
Okay, as far as the size, which, like I said, I misunderstood because I never changed that. Last time I said I just wanted to go from 1250 to 1500, so I redid the dimensions. But if I can do, let me do this. Oh, so if I go with 10-foot doors, just help me back in. I mean, 10-foot doors, overhead doors, 4 foot smaller, goes to the 1240, if I'm doing my calculation right. 31 feet.
If I could, just a second, sir,
Yeah.
just a second, please.
Mhm.
Board members, are there other, you guys have other comments or questions or?
I mean, my only issue is I don't see where the application has changed since the last time you came. So it looks like the same application as last time, although the supplement that you've provided is different. And so based on the application, and similar to what the chair said, we have 1,000 square feet to work with, and so we'd be looking at a variance to that. In addition to that, probably a question I should have asked you last time, can you talk about the necessity of the camper shell or the camper that you're wanting to also cover? I mean, I understand the larger van and the navigability of that, but can you talk about the camper a little bit?
Yes, some of them have a ramp door on the back nowadays, and it's just easier to get in and out instead of through the, because I take a cane sometimes a walker, sometimes a wheelchair. It all depends on how bad the pain medicine and what I'm doing does. So the new campers, the fifth wheels, if you've seen them, the ramp goes down or it goes down flat and lifts up. So that's the purpose of that.
And how often is that used?
That, well, 4 times last summer, 4 times the year before that, not counting it could be, but I'm younger. It's only getting worse as you get older. It's like cancer. They say you're going to die, but you don't know when. You just know you're dying.
Listen, no one up here is questioning the application in terms of medical needs or anything like that. It's simply a matter of this is what the ordinance tries to protect residential areas from, and something that I should have said in my comments earlier. Your neighbors that you're pointing to, I don't know, we don't know, right, if any of those people actually came before this body and obtained a variance, or if they just took the unfortunate and unnecessary risk of building that building to find out later when they go to sell that property or when they try to do something, or if a code enforcement person goes out and looks at it, that it's not allowed. That's a problem they'll have to deal with that's separate. And each of those applications, like we talked about last time, are looked at individually. So there could be all kinds of circumstances that were presented there that this body's not privy to because we didn't attend that hearing. But the whole intent of the ordinance is to prevent people from being able to exceed the limit that allows them to do things that the city council decided they were trying to protect residential areas from, and that's things like having multiple things stored on a property, campers, boats. That's the whole point of having a limited size building. And so his questions are fair in that on the one instance, we have what we need for a van. The height there, I get. On the other hand, we've got a camper that idealistically we want to keep, but it's hard for us to look at that and then look at the 4 elements of a variance and say that we're enforcing those as we should, that there's the minimum necessary to alleviate hardship, that there is all those sorts of things. Does that make sense?
Well, kind of. I do have a question. I didn't know if I was going to change the size of the building, if I needed to change my application. I thought that's what I was here to discuss. So as far as the application deal, I just figured it was already in. That's what I'm doing.
The reason we took 2 weeks last time was to give you the opportunity to consider how to meet. I thought we could get beyond it. We can use an exterior finish that's not metal. Doesn't have to be brick, as I understand the code, correct? It could also be wood. Is that right?
Yes. And some of these look like wood. That's why it's right there.
I understand. So, but at the end of the day, there's a workaround here to get beyond the need for a variance, and that's where I have trouble with the application. It isn't that I necessarily have a problem with it, or I don't think that you really need it. It's that I can't get beyond those 4 elements and say we can get past this by just changing the exterior to wood. Even if I don't necessarily think that's a great idea, to be frank with you, to use wood, but that's what the code allows, and that's all we can look at. Do you understand?
Yeah, so my question is, do I need to change my application because I messed up on the size and then do the,
I
or
would
do
not
I
have-
just do the wood and not do the variance, is what you're saying?
I would not oppose, I certainly wouldn't oppose, I cannot speak for other board members, but I would not oppose giving you an additional amount of time to look at this and try to find a solution before we take a vote on it.
Yep.
But I will leave that up to the discretion of the other board members and you as the applicant.
I'm willing to go 30-day continuance and improve my education and
So-
what the requirements are. So you're saying specifically,
Just to be clear, so when you come back in 30 days, I want to be clear about what we're looking at. In that time period, I would look very hard to see if you can simply withdraw the application by altering the exterior finish to
Okay.
allow what code, and
if I
staff can
do
help you there.
what John said, I just withdraw it and go that route.
That would be fine. Or if you feel that you can't do that and you'd like to come back, that you understand what our concerns were and what you would need to do to substantiate that variance.
And the wood siding, if that's what I picked, or brick, whatever, is for the height limit.
That allows you to build higher than 10 feet, as I understand it.
But not higher than the main structure, which is the house.
That's
what.
that's the way I
was here
understood
2
it
weeks
from
ago.
from
The guy
John as
was
well.
standing, sitting there. Okay, I'm willing to do that in 4 weeks.
Our next 2 dates would be either June 7th or July 5th.
July 5th.
Any objection? Need a motion?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to be rude, I'm just reluctant to grant a continuance because we've done that before and we got the same application. So that's my hesitance here, but I will move to continue this to the July 7th, you said?
July 5th.
July 5th meeting.
I second it.
I have a motion and a second to continue case number 14476 to the July 5th, 2018 meeting. Please cast your votes. And the application is continued.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I'll get better each time.
Item number 3, case number 14479, request for a variance to the 12-foot maximum width for a non-conforming residential driveway in the R1 Single Family Residential District located at 2824 Somerset Place.
Good afternoon. My name is Danny Mendoza, 2824 Somerset.
Mr. Mendoza, if you could pull that, there you go. Thank you
I'm
very
sorry.
much. No, you're fine.
Danny Mendoza, 2824 Somerset Place. Recently, I was ticketed by the code enforcement because I was not in the right driveway where I am. So I would like to ask the board to allow me to have my variant approved because when I moved there on 2001, the driveway is already there. So I just try to use it for my company, for visitors, and of course for myself. That's all
I'm familiar with this area. I know that we've seen other cases. Each of those cases stands on its own. What is interesting about these cases that come from this street is that they do all share a peculiarity, in my view, which is that, well, number one, it's an extraordinarily narrow street, and number two, there are no curbs and gutters on these streets, so you basically have bar ditches there. And all of the streets in this area essentially have gravel driveways, and that was kind of the intention of, I think, the neighborhood was to allow that development. I wasn't there in 1939, but I suppose that's what they were thinking. And this structure, I think, in notes in the record, was built in 1939. So I support your application. But,
Thank you. Thank you.
I do too. This was very similar, and I think it was on the same street as the other. And it was like the other one. When the code was enacted in 1988, it wasn't grandfathered in. And so I would suggest that we move to approve this.
Is there anyone that wanted to be heard on this matter today? If not, if there's other discussion, happy to hear it, or I'll take a motion.
I mean, is there any concern that essentially we're requiring any of the remaining neighbors to come and get a variance?
Yeah, and I
Also
think...
getting tickets?
I think we are. I think we are. I think, the last time we heard a case on this, we got a little bit more color from staff, and John could probably weigh in on this, but the issue was the way that it was done and when the code was changed versus when this was built, and there's not a good solution here. Now, if the city came through and, took a wider right-of-way and widened the street and put in gutters and made that, then I think his argument would be a lot more challenging, but something tells me that wasn't in the last GO bond.
That was
Yeah, I
my
think-
only concern.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I think our street is too narrow, and that's one of the problem we're having.
I saw that. I went and looked at it. It's incredibly narrow. He's right. There are, I counted at least 27 paved driveways, and so the gravel ones are going out.
Yeah, there have been, I think some of these homes have been redeveloped too, and I think as they're being redeveloped, some of that is changing, but I certainly have sympathy to an applicant who has lived there since 2001, and all of a sudden is being cited for parking on a driveway because they can't park on the street, and I certainly don't want them in the street where emergency vehicles are trying to get through and navigate bar ditches, so you got me.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Somebody, anybody?
So what I would like to move to approve case number 14479 for the reason all the requisites, statutory requisites for granting a variance have been met.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the variance application for case number 14479. Please cast your votes. The application is approved.
Thank you so much. Have a good afternoon.
You too.
Item number 4, case number 14480, request for a variance to the platted 40-foot front yard setback in PUD 1370 district, located at 5600 Courtland Lane.
I'm Warren Peacock with WPM Design Group, representing the applicant. This is a new development. It is 1 acre tracts, actually 3/4 acre tracts. There is a 40-foot building limit line set for these lots, and on this particular lot, for whatever reason, the house got built 10 foot over the building limit line. So what we're asking for is to get a variance to move the building limit line to 25 feet. We will still be 30 foot, the house will still be 30 foot off of the street. So it does not really impact the neighborhood. I think I provided you some pictures that shows the house is pretty much in line with the rest of the homes on that street. I think it's basically the way the street's curved and the way the configuration of the lots are. But obviously you can see the house is pretty much completed, so at this point in time it's going to be a little difficult to try to move it.
We don't have, obviously I don't have an aerial that shows me, but the building line, the front building line, as you look down this street,
Yes.
even being a pretty substantial amount over what the original front building line was supposed to be, the setback was supposed to be, it's in line, is that what you're saying?
If you look down the street and you can see those pictures, it will appear that it's...
Well, that's the problem. The pictures
Yeah.
are taken at an angle that I can't tell what it looks like.
Obviously, it's going to be set ahead of those. It's not going to actually be in line with those, and it will be set ahead, but it is on a curved street, and these are large lots. They're about 125 foot wide, each lot, so the houses are spread out pretty significantly.
We see these cases from time to time. Normally they're like a foot or 6 inches or 18 inches, or I think we've seen some that are 3 feet. This is 10 feet.
Yeah, I understand.
How does one do that?
Not sure I can answer that question. I did not ask the developer that question myself.
Board members?
Wish we could change the practice of when these surveys are done.
That-
Because it's,
Probably would be a good idea.
I think it would be a great idea.
Yeah.
It would be prudent.
I'll suggest that to him.
Thank you.
For me, I have to draw lines somewhere, and I think if I support this, I don't think there's a limit to what I support, so I just can't support it. This is where I have to draw the line. I have a feeling it'll be approved anyway, but
I do wonder, and this is not the place, and it's not our pay grade to discuss it, but I do wonder if there's a problem, because we see these applications a fair amount, and like I said, look, 6 inches on a cul-de-sac street, like, I get it. I mean, that's it's a problem with laying it out, but, I mean, we see 3 feet and 4 feet and 10 feet, and I don't know what we're going to see eventually, but he makes a good point. I don't know what the fix is to ensure things like this are done a little bit more correctly, other than just, 2 garden flags on the ground with a line of spray paint, but...
Right. Well, obviously, I did the actual subdivision work. I'm not involved in the construction of the homes, and I don't know who they're using to survey and lay these homes out. But I think what I'm hearing is to, at least for my client, if they don't want to get themselves in trouble, they need to start paying a little more attention, and I will relay that on to them to make sure that they do a better job of identifying where these building limit lines are and making sure their homes are beyond that. I mean, that's about all I can really do. As I said, I was not involved in the actual layout of this home, so I can't tell you why it happened.
One of these days, I fear that there will be opposition from a neighborhood on something like this that creates a discussion about things like comp plans and stuff like that are within our purview to consider these. It's really hard for me to not support applications like this, because I understand maybe too closely what it's like to be in the field and try and do this stuff. But this is a big variance to a setback.
I'll let them know I don't really want to come back up here anymore. Maybe that'll help.
I'm not sure. Is there anybody else that wants to be heard on this matter today? If not, board members, if there's other discussion, or I'll take a motion. Got to start a motion party somewhere. Somebody pick a side.
well, I move to deny the application.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to deny the variance for case number 14480. Please cast your votes, please. I'm not sure why my light's not coming on. Okay. So the motion fails. Yep. So now we would need to try an alternative motion, correct? Yeah, that's what I thought. So would somebody else like to make a motion? Our motion to deny has failed.
Well, I suppose the application fails if there's not a motion to approve, correct?
Well, actually, I think it would just be continued. I look to Laura. That way, if I start to say something that's wrong, hopefully she stops me before I say it out loud. I can't make the motion to approve it, but...
Mr. Chairman, perhaps I intended for my vote to be against the approval, and maybe I pushed the button the wrong way.
Okay.
I have an alternative. I just have been advised by my non-attorney. He suggested take a 2-week continuance and look at possibly doing an administrative amendment to the PUD, which might allow us to fix this problem without having to have a variance. So that might be a solution that helps everybody out.
I think taking 2 weeks before we have to shave 10 feet off the house would be a wonderful idea.
Yes. Well, obviously, I don't want this denied because that's not going to help anybody. So
I would say, and this, this is your opportunity, there's clearly some frustration. I think the reality is, even though all these cases are looked at individually, it seems to be a belief that you just come in and get the variance, and I do think there's a line. 6 inches a foot is one thing, 10 feet is a big miss. So I would...
I think this is the only second one of these I've ever done, so I'm not sure that I realized there was that many that were coming before you.
We see them pretty regularly.
Okay.
Yep.
So we could take a 2-week continuance. Let me talk with the staff and see if there's another alternative for us.
I have no objection, but I can't make a motion, so.
I'd move to accept the continuance.
And just to be clear, this would actually be a continuance to June
7th.
Yeah, whatever
The
the next
7th.
meeting is,
Okay.
right?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to continue case number 14480 to the June 7th, 2018 meeting. Please cast your votes.
Thank you.
I don't know why my thing's, there it is again. Sorry. The application is continued.
Item number 5, case number 14481, application for special exception to allow a mobile home to serve as a temporary second dwelling to relieve a medical hardship in the AA Agricultural District located at 12,000 Northeast 150th Street.
Is the applicant present?
Josh King, 13225 East 33rd Street out in Jones. And we have a 5-acre lot that's zoned agricultural. We're going to build a new house on it. We need a new building permit. There's an existing mobile home on that property that's a 2011 model. And my mother has had some medical difficulties. And we'd like to be able to leave that structure there for her to stay in for the 3-year variance.
And I understand that you've kind of helped me out here, that this person is your mother, and then you've submitted documentation to staff, correct, that the medical hardship exists. It's the only structure. So it appears as I read through these that the conditions are met for an approval of the special exception. Board members, are there questions for the applicant?
Is this the first time you've applied for this?
Yes.
How long do you want the application to be for?
3 years.
Okay.
Is there anyone here that wants to be heard on this matter today? Seeing none, I'd take a motion.
Make a motion to approve the special exception request for a period of 3 years.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the special exception request for a period of 3 years on case number 14481. Please cast your votes, please. The application is approved.
Item number 6, case number 14482, application for a special exception to allow lodging accommodations, campground, and a variance to the conditions that the site shall not abut nor be within 300 feet of a residential district, and a variance to the site-proof screening shall be provided around all sides of the site in the AA Agricultural District located at 14400 South Western Avenue.
I'm Glenn Orr, Orr Family Farm, and what we're wanting to do is put in some really nice Conestoga wagons for overnight camping. However, with the help of Mr. Patterson, Mr. Wilson, I finally understood. Yeah, there's what we're talking about. I finally understood why we needed the variance. We never proposed or never figured on putting in the residential backyard of these people, our neighbors there to the east, but I guess you have to get a variance and specify that because the property is all one, and so the property where we're talking about is we'd put the wagons primarily 600 feet from the residential area, except for the one little wagon in the future that we may want to put there that'll be 310 feet. So I think what we're proposing, Mr. Wilson, if I'm correct, is that there can be no overnight camping within 300 feet of their back fence, so that we protect them. We had a meeting with the neighbors regarding it, and that's why we're asking for a variance. We had a meeting with them and explained, and and their main concern, they didn't want people camping right in their backyard, so to speak, right next to them, and we certainly agree with that.
Just to be clear, with the way I understand the application, I want staff to confirm this for me, that one part of your request would require a variance to be within 300 feet of a residentially zoned district. The second part of that is the site-proof screening. That's also a requirement that would be a separate variance. Is that correct?
Both of those are conditions for the special exception. I believe he's asking for
You're right.
a condition that he's not going to put them within 300 feet of the houses.
Which would not require, within the special exception, would that then eliminate the requirement for the site-proof screening? Or would, he would still have to provide that? And I want to make sure you understand that. That's why I was getting there. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I don't. You're saying that a screen will be required?
Yeah, as a part of the, a condition essentially for a special exception is you have to be more than 300 feet from a residential district, okay? And you have to provide site-proof screening on your property to screen that from the residential district.
Well, it's my understanding that most of them don't want to be screened from it for the simple reason of how pretty they are and that they will add to the area. Plus, if that happened, then they can't see the lakes, and those that are, a lot of them will tell you that that's the reason that they selected that property, so they could be right up against the lakes.
Understood. I do have a number of people that have signed up to speak on the application today. One thing I want to ask you about this, there was a special exception obtained for this property in 2002 as well. That was to allow the use unit of participant recreation and entertainment. Is that correct? Is that your recollection as well?
Yes, it's on the property. You can see it in all the area of Orr Family Farm, which, as the city councilman David Greenwell calls it, when we rededicated it after the tornado wiped us out, that he called it an icon, and we never realized until the tornado hit us how much people appreciate having the Orr Family Farm and the cleanness and that sort of thing of what we do. We will have restrictions on these people. We'll have a curfew on them of 11 o'clock is what our plans are, and there won't be any smoking in the wagons and plus there'll be a fire extinguisher in there, so that we're trying to have as much security as we can.
Board members, any questions for the applicant?
I think the distance special exception that you need was just for one wagon, is that correct?
I'm sorry, I have...
The special exception you would need would just be for one wagon. The site screening is another issue, but as far as the distance, it's for one wagon, and then the other 10 wagons would not need a special exception.
Well, the special exception, since his property line abuts the residential property, he is required to
the
get
single wagon.
a variance to that.
Yeah,
because
it's more than
he cannot but be
300
within
feet.
300 feet.
And that's something for the future, really. You see, we have weddings out there. We have actually 2 wedding sites. And I've talked with some people that are planning to have weddings next year. And when I told them about that I might possibly have one wagon right there for them, that, they got really excited about it. And the idea of having their own area for their honeymoon. So that's just in the future. We're not wedded to that at all. We've talked with the Girl Scouts, for example. They're really excited about it. We've had some of their executives out, and they're really looking forward to us putting in the...
There is no doubt in my mind that you have tremendous community support in terms of people who use the facility, appreciate the facility, and all those things. There are a number of people who want to be heard. I'd like to hear from those people. I think the comment that I would make on this before we even hear from them is there's a point where a zoning application is appropriate. In my view, we're there. I think we've gotten to the point where this property, which has a base zoning district of agricultural use, really isn't being used for agricultural purposes in a traditional manner any longer, which is what the code contemplates. And to me, it makes a lot more sense to go through that process of having the property rezoned to allow what your use is, give notice to people of what that's going to look like, how it's going to work, an opportunity for people to kind of come together and express concerns and discuss it. Really, to me, makes more sense. My comments here do not reflect how I feel about your operation. I can't support the application simply because I believe it's appropriate for a rezoning application, not for a variance or for the special exception. I think in order to vary this, we've granted a special exception once before in 2002. We're back again to expand your use even further. I'm to a point where I think it's better to go through that process legislatively and properly rezone the property. So we'll take some comments from at the end, but I do want to call some people who want to be heard on the item. Is Steve Kelly here?
After so much discussion, I'm Steve Kelly, 14309 Salina Way, Oklahoma City. After so much discussion, I'm really not sure how I feel about it. I did withdraw my opposition. As far as the site screening, I think that it would be really difficult to try to maintain something like that. So I'm about 50-50 on that situation.
I'm not so sure that I didn't mess that up or misspeak on the rights to the screening. Would you mind clarifying for us, John, what that requirement is as it relates to this application? It's not screening the wagon, right?
No, the special exception has a couple of conditions that he cannot, or he doesn't want to meet, basically. His property abuts the residential property. The condition is that his property has to be it cannot abut or be within 300 feet. That's one thing. The other is that the property must be screened. The entire property, all the way around the property, has to have a screening fence. For him to get the special exception, you would have to vary both of those conditions.
And that's because the special exception to allow the use unit of lodging accommodations triggers
the condition.
Which goes to my point that we're essentially adding use units. You're effectively converting the property into a PUD by getting special exceptions and adding use units. And so, I mean, that sort of aids my argument that this is probably, at least in my view, proper. So thank you for your comments, Mr. Kelly. And please forgive me if I pronounce your name wrong. Arnora Kearns. Did I get that? Close?
Hello, my name is Arnora Kearns. I live at 14316 on Salina Way. I just got the letter in the mail and had no idea what this was about. It had Chevy Chase on there. It didn't have Orr Family Farm on there. We thought maybe it was an Orr Family Farm thing, but we just didn't know and wanted to know how they were related. Is that the construction company?
Orr Family. That's a long story. Chevy Chase, too, we did to get rid of the indebtedness on it. We sold some apartments and we transferred the money. It is Orr Family Farm, and that's what this is. And the thing I want to point out is that this is a contiguous thing of Orr Family Farm, so that people that come can have the experience of a historic wagon.
We understand. I don't mean to cut you off, but I really want to hear Ms. Kearns' concerns as it relates to the application. We understand.
Thank you. Really, I came to this hearing to hear more about it. I didn't really have questions, but wanted to be able to speak, and so I gave you my name just in case I wanted to speak. But I did have a question about the Chevy Chase, and thank you for answering that. Thank you.
Thank you. Roger Buck. Mr. Buck, are you present?
My name's Roger Buck. I live at 14301 Selena Way. Our objections originally were not wanting them within 300 feet of our back fence, and I don't really personally care about the site screening, but again, it sounds to me like this is probably not the appropriate place for this discussion, but as far as my objections to it, as long as he's not going to put anything within 300 feet of my property line, I do not have any objections.
And I'll let staff correct me if I'm wrong, but just so you understand, if we approve the variances and allow the special exception, they may not put them there today, but they could put them there in the future. Is that correct?
They could put them there in the future only if you condition it to not be within that 300
Yeah.
feet.
So we've got to limit this even further. Okay. So that's the,
Okay. Well, that's, would be my concern then, if at some point they could do that,
understood.
then I would be concerned.
Thank you very much. Board members, questions? Sir, do you want to make a couple comments before we take a motion? You're welcome to.
I was just hoping that we could get this done so that we would be, we've got to get them built yet. We already have the manufacturer in mind that has done a marvelous job with them for the historic reason. One of the things that we were planning to do is we're not naming them number 1, number 2, or whatever. We're going to name them after first we were going to name them after famous people, but then the more we thought about it, what are we known for? Well, people come to here for the Indian Territory. And so what we were planning to do is name them after the different tribes of Indians that settled here, and then have a plaque that talks about them and their contributions that they've made, and so that the Conestoga wagons, of course, were the things that settled the West, and it was their transportation and also their cargo transportation for many years. And people seem to love that for a historical fact. In order to have them, you either have to have mountains or water, and that's why we're putting it next to water, and have no intention of putting them way back there ever, and wouldn't. But I just don't see the need to go through the rezoning process due to the fact that we are agriculture. We do sell animals off of the farm. We do have a haying operation. We do have something that's rather unique in that we have a very large composting operation. So it is agriculture. It is not commercial in that sense. And we do it for historic reasons. And as I said, the people appreciate so much what we've tried to do to help the area and to have a place where they can come that is clean, and also that people must be well behaved. And so I would hope and pray that you would decide to let us do it on a variance and not have to rezone, because rezoning doesn't really fit us at all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming down.
I have a question, Dr. Orr. I have a question. Since you are proposing, I know you probably wouldn't have any objection to dropping one of your wagons so that all of them would be permanently affixed within 600 feet, or a condition of 600 feet with the property line.
Are you saying, I'm sorry, my hearing's not too well for some reason, but anyway, I think What you're saying is that as long as we would stay, let's say, 500 feet from the residential areas, is that what you're saying?
Yes, I'm asking you because you had a proposal that one of them would be within 300. The other one I have concerns about.
Okay.
And that is, you have ADA considerations. You're all, if you're going to hold it out for like a campsite or an overnight campsite, there may be other regulations that might come into play that you would need to satisfy the zoning ordinance. I didn't know what thought you had put to that, your public facilities, your restroom facilities, and those kinds of things.
Very good.
That you don't have that within your proposal.
Yes, thank you. One of the things that we're planning to do, as a friend of ours in near Atlanta, Georgia, has a Conestoga wagons, and what he does, as he says, is we have clean porta potties for them. We also will have fire extinguishers. We will also have, for the campfire, for example, for security, water is right next to them. So there's no danger. We put gravel around them anyway. And so there's no danger of a fire. We also, in the Conestoga wagons, if you'd like, we had one picture of the Conestoga wagons. I have a book here. I'd be glad to show you about them, but we'll put fire extinguishers in them. And then, in addition for that, as I said earlier, we'll have a curfew of 11 o'clock, and I've already... Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, son. ADA, the only way, that is a problem with the Conestoga wagons. The only way that a person can do it if they can't get up the stairs is we can lift them up with a bobcat and lift them in if an ADA person wanted to get in them.
The one other question I have on the site-proof screening, I know you discussed the fact that you couldn't do that because it's, like the pasture land and you wanted the view of the lake. But my concern is if you have an overnight stay, camping-type facilities, that kids will try to go different places, and they might, if they don't have the security of being kept in some enclosed area. I've been involved with, I've seen camping facilities, and you can skip out at night or try to go out of your campsite. And I think there might be some reason for some type of site-proof screening that you're asking for a variance from it, and I'm hard-pressed on seeing that particular part.
Well, your questions about operating hours, about screening, about facilities, these are all reasons, in my view, that the application has really risen to a point where a rezoning application is appropriate, because these are all things that can be discussed in that format. Here, we're essentially limited to granting a special exceptions, and then in addition to that, we can set some sort of a limitation on that, which is just not ideal. It's a Band-Aid to a problem that really needs an operation, in my mind. And you're aiding my argument, is my point.
All I'm saying is if we subject it to the placement of the location of the wagons, and we provide that they shall have comply with all the city regulations regarding camping facilities and those kinds of things, they would have to have permits to do what they're doing. I don't see how that would be different from anything else, even if they were to go back and rezone. I do have problems with the site-proof screening variance. I have problems because I know that people will escape the wagon and do other things. And that, if it's overnight, that's my only concern. So,
well, we can do that. What we might do if we put up site-proof fencing along on the residential area, is that what you're talking about, Ms. Lewis? If we put it up there, the way that I would want to do it is talk with the individual resident there, because some of them, sure as the world, don't want, they've expressed it to me, some of which are right here, that they don't want a site-proof fence up against them. And so I'd be more than glad to do it on an individual basis. In other words, I don't want to make them mad by putting up a site-proof fence when they want to see the wagons, they want to see the lakes.
I'm going to concur with the chairman that the appropriate venue is to rezone, and I assume that we give the applicant a chance to either withdraw his application or we can go ahead and vote.
Board members, other questions or comments on this?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that the interplay between all the different things that we would have to do in order to make this work, and I can assure you, I want this to work, and I want to see that out there. I just think it's beyond our ability and beyond our authority to allow at this point. And so for that reason, I'd move to deny the application.
The reason why I'm sorry.
I don't want to have a back and forth or a debate or anything like that. I'm just expressing my comments to the board.
Well, the reason I said this, or the way that we did this, was at the recommendation of the city.
I understand.
This wasn't my recommendation. I just came to the city, and with Mr. Wilson's help, this was the way that they said that it should be done, and they had every group of people there at that meeting that Mr. Greenwell suggested, and Mr. Wilson was there.
We could possibly continue this and then basically take this to a PUD, and that way he doesn't lose his money on the application. We can apply the $1,200 to the $1,800 fee. I mean, you're over 5 acres, correct?
I'm sorry?
Are you over 5 acres?
These are 7.
And it would be we could put the $1,200 towards the $2,700 fee.
Well, how long, we just need to continue it indefinitely? Is that essentially what we're doing?
Really, I think we probably should just withdraw it and apply that money towards the PUD. If it's up to the applicant, but
at this point, what your options would be to request us to move to withdraw the application, to let you have time to meet with folks, city staff, and outside counsel to prepare a PUD or an SPUD, whatever's appropriate there, to submit that application in a different venue, or we can rule on the application that's presently in front of us, or if you'd like to take 2 weeks, although I'm going to speak up and say I'm not particularly in favor of that. I don't think it's going to do anything. We could continue the matter to the next meeting, which would be the June 7th meeting, so it's not really 2 weeks, it's 3. But
well, see, what's confusing to me, Mr. Cravens, is this is the way the city...
I understand. And I understand your frustration with that, but I can't support the application, and it is our job as a board to take the application, to take what staff has recommended, to take the information we're given and make a decision about whether or not we're doing what the ordinance asks us to do. We're not the city council, and so it's beyond our purview to essentially spot zone and keep adding use units to something, in my view. I can't get comfortable with that. So not saying that I don't support what you're doing. I would echo Mr. Merchant's comments. I support what you're doing there. I think there's a better way to do that that gives all the stakeholders in the area a chance to comment, that lets you address concerns and kind of position the property to not have to do it again in the future, and that would be my recommendation to you. So with that, I'll leave it to you to decide if you'd like to have us withdraw your application. You can refile it, right? By withdrawing it, you can refile it, and you're not losing the money that you've put forward, which would be my suggestion to you.
So what is your recommendation on this, Mr. Wilson?
I really can't recommend. You can withdraw, and we will put the $1,200 towards the PUD if that's the route you go.
Sir, I think this is a cool idea. It really looks like a neat idea. I just think that there's an avenue for you to get here, and that avenue is not through a variance from the Board of Adjustment, in my opinion. I think it's a cool idea, and I think there's a way that you can get there, and I think if you talk with the city staff again, and maybe if you talk to a lawyer, you might be able to get there.
All right, we withdraw the application.
Can I have a motion on the?
So moved.
Second? It was a motion to withdraw.
I'll second.
I have a second. So I have a motion to second to withdraw the application for case number 14483. Please cast your votes, please. And the application is withdrawn. Thank you very much.
I believe the
Item number 7, case number 14483.
I apologize. That's correct. It was for case 14482. Do we need to revote that? Okay. My apologies.
Okay. Item number 7, case number 14483, request for a variance to the condition that a dumpster be located behind the front wall of the main structure in the I-2 Moderate Industrial District, located at 6325 South Portland Place.
Hello, I'm Steve Coles. The address for the project is 6325 South Portland Place.
Go ahead and tell us about your application.
It's a brand-new facility, SkyWest Maintenance. It's a SkyWest maintenance hangar. It went through all the, pre-approvals, and we had it sitting on the front face of the building. This building has been built once before. It's the reason why it was, kind of fast-tracked a little bit. And it was already designed, and then went through everything, got down to the final building approval, and this ordinance came up. We were originally planning on getting an ordinance, going for the variance, but knowing it was going to take about 6 weeks to get through, and whether it was approved or not, we opted to relocate on the drawing at least to get the building permit official so that we could start building and getting the building off the ground and moving dirt and getting the process going. So now that we've fully permitted everything in February, now that we didn't have any hiccups with any permitting, we went back for the variance, and that's why I'm here. So it will be in a fully fenced area, cinder block wall up, I believe it's 6 feet tall, chain link gates on the front, and fully enclosed. The only thing that it does not, for the ordinance that I can see that it doesn't apply to is that it's on the forward-facing side of the building. The airport considers the west side of the building, which is the side that faces the airport. That's their forward-facing side of the building. Now, if you look at the city ordinance is claiming that the Portland's Place side is the side that faces the road. So,
where on the drawing that's on the screen now did you place the dumpster to get your building permit?
It is on the northwest corner, so there's a driveway coming off the north end there. I believe there is a drawing that shows the new location. If not, I have one here that I can show you.
It's kind of that dark gray drive that leads around the back?
Yeah, so right there where the detail, it says 1 on C36, and it has an arrow pointing to it.
So you placed the enclosure there?
Yeah.
And so help me understand how would that affect the site operationally? What's the
shipping, receiving, everything, all the security side of the building, it was designed, the interior of the building is secured in a way that that place right up front is where they can allow the trash to be removed without having to go through a big security effort to get it outside of the building.
So there's security gates that would prevent access to that drive, is what you're saying?
On the inside of the building, there's an AOA devising line inside of the building that allows to be badged in and out of the building for airport security. There's a FAA regulations inside of that building, because once you cross, it's more or less an imaginary line inside the building. You now have access to the FAA side of the world.
So, okay, I understand that, but for the purposes of the variance, what does putting the dumpster on the north side of the building, which you've done before you came here to try to keep it on the east side, what is the complication with that dumpster enclosure?
Now we put it on an asphalt surface, which increases all the wear and tear on the asphalt, and it's also going to be located on the fire lane of the building.
So that north drive is a fire lane as well?
Correct. That's the intention of those drives on both the north and south side is emergency fire lane.
Here's what I'd note for just the purpose of the record there, as the existing zoning and land use surrounding the site, everything is I-2. On 3 sides, you're surrounded by airport property. We do have a letter from the Oklahoma City Airport Trust that does not object to the placement of the dumpster. And the purpose of the ordinance is one primarily of aesthetics. It's to protect and prevent people from placing a dumpster where it's visible from incompatible uses and things like that. So I don't have any objection to the application, but those would be my comments. Board members?
Make a motion to approve the application that they've met the statutory requirements for variance.
Is there anyone here by chance that wanted to be heard on this matter today? I do have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve. This is case number 14483. To approve the variance for case number 14483. Please cast your votes, please. Ms. Lewis? And the application is approved.
Thanks, sir.
Item number 8, case number 14484, application for special exception to allow a above-ground fuel tank in the AA Agricultural District located at 1300 East Britton Road.
Good afternoon, David Box, 522 Colcord Drive, here on behalf of the applicant. Also with me is Brent Hensley, the General Manager of KOCO, and David Evans, Director of Engineering for KOCO. The special exception application today is to be able to install an above-ground liquid flammable storage tank to be able to service the news helicopter that's on site. We do believe we meet all the requirements for a special exception in the AA district. You'll note in the staff report the staff found no unfavorable considerations. You will see in the pictures provided in our application the location of where the tank will go. The little box that's on the screen before you that says AA, it's going to be in that what would be the southwest corner of that box. So that's where the helicopter is housed, and that's where the tanks will be to service those helicopters.
When you say the southwest, there's a, oh good, it's on the screen. So
where the hand is.
The solid black line.
Yes, sir.
Where that, okay. That's the southwest corner of your foot. So about the center of the property in terms of east.
Of the overall property, yes.
Yeah. And you, the application says that your tank does comply with all the conditions set forth in 599350.2?
That's right, and all the fire regulations and all those things are complied with the type of tanks we have and the setup that we propose.
Okay. One of the conditions for special exception, just curious on staff's comments here, it says that if there are reasonable precautions to protect nearby and existing property, it doesn't appear that there is any from the overview. Was there anything in staff's review of the application?
We didn't review anything that showed it.
Okay.
Anything.
Board members? Questions? Is there anybody else that wants to be heard on this matter today? If not, I'll take a motion.
I move approval.
Second.
I have a motion in 2 seconds to approve the variance, or the special exception, excuse me, for case number 14484. Please cast your votes, please.
Thank you.
The application is approved.
Item number 9, case number 14485, request for a variance to the minimum 25-foot front yard setback in the O2 General Office District located at 5555 North Grand Boulevard.
Applicant present.
Ron Roque with Massini Construction Company, 2919 United Founders Boulevard. This is a water stop canopy that's going to be constructed along the Lake Hefner, Lake Overholser Trail, that bike trail and walk trail that connects the two lakes. It's located south and west of Integris Baptist Medical Center.
Okay. Board members, questions?
I like this idea. I'm going to support this application.
I like it. I suppose the hardship is heat stroke or something.
Pardon me?
The hardship element, I suppose it's heat stroke of the runners and people who frequent the trails. So, and that light, I support it as well.
Is there anyone here that does not want a water stop?
There's no further discussion. I'd make a motion to approve the application that met all the statutory requirements for the variance.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second to approve case number 14485. Please cast your votes, please. And the application is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 10, case number 14486, request for a variance to the minimum 5 acres required for a mobile home in the R1 Single Family Residential District located at 10221 Northeast 50th Street.
Hi.
Hello. My name is Crystal Taylor. I am living at 10221 Northeast 50th, Spencer, Oklahoma. When I bought the property, the realtor did not tell me that I could not put a trailer on the acreage that I bought. We bought 2 lots, which is 127, 128. And so when we tried to get electric set up out there, they told us we had to have a permit. So we went to the permit office, and they said that we couldn't do it because we cannot put a trailer on less than 5 acres. So it's like, okay. We came to a wall. So we end up talking to John Wilson, and all this is new to me. I've lived out in the country all my life. My mother just recently had a heart attack. She lives up here in the city, and I lived in Macomb like an hour and a half away. And when I bought the property, it was closer to her. It only takes us 15 minutes to get to her now. And I was hoping y'all would grant me the variance because there's also other people in that area that has mobile homes on less than 5 acres.
One of the things that you hate to hear is that you bought this in good faith, and that a realtor or somebody else told you that you could do what you intended to do, and that you did not know. And I don't know where the burden, Scott is or Laura, in terms of, I mean, when you buy, it's your responsibility to know what you're buying. But I can also understand as a consumer, when you talk about what your intent is and somebody tells you that you can do that, and it may not totally alleviate you from the responsibility. It's like if the speed limit is posted at 30 and somebody tells you they don't enforce it, you can drive whatever you want. It's still your responsibility. So I'm sympathetic with you and the fact that we all need to remember that underlying this too, we all have a responsibility to know, what we're buying and what the rules are.
Well, I talked to the realtor, I don't know how many times. I asked him numerous times, can I put a mobile home? And he actually told me I could put 2 mobile homes on there because I bought 2 lots.
Is there a mobile home there presently?
Yes.
Okay. Board members, other questions for the applicant or comments? Is there anyone here that wants to be heard on this matter today? If you look at the aerial, there are a number of places like this. I didn't confirm acreages or anything, but there's a number of them. As noted next door, there's one that interestingly enough appears to be zone C3.
Yeah, that's another thing. We did not know we was in a flood-prone area neither. So, and the gentleman that is to the east of us, he was glad to see somebody there because we actually cleared off that land. And he said it was an eyesore, and now it looks a whole lot better. And we plan on doing a whole lot of other stuff to it also if we do get a variance.
This is a tough deal. I'm share Mr. Austin's comments. I'm extremely sympathetic to the fact that you took good judgment from who you thought was a professional to advise you. It's the city's limit on that is 5 acres, and this is 1 acre, or 1.5 acres. So it's significantly. It's a significant variance from what's there. I don't know what tools we have here to try and be both fair and ultimately, in good conscience enforce the ordinances that we're asked to by, as members of this body. I don't know what we can do here. I'm open to suggestions, to be frank.
I mean, that was my biggest concern with this, is I'm just not sure that this is the appropriate remedy for this wrong. And again, as the board is well aware, it might be just kind of the litigator in me, but I'm just not sure that this is the correct remedy for that. I think there are other remedies.
What other options, John, what are our options here?
I think you would have to, even if you rezone the property, you'd have to do it as a SPUD to allow a mobile home. Straight rezoning is not going to allow it.
So even if she changes, you're going to still have to put an SPUD to get it done?
Correct.
I don't know if this makes any difference or not. It goes in my personal, I guess. I have a VPO out on my ex-husband, and it is actually a lifetime VPO. And I have paperwork and everything that actually shows this. He actually wanted me to drop it because he wants to get a gun. Well, he is a very violent person. And we moved because he threatened me because I would not drop it. And like I said, I've got court documents, I have court papers for this also.
Yeah, I understand. I always hate that things appear when we do things that are, it seems we've had a couple applications today I felt that way about, that it's personal, we're not trying to be accommodating. I think I'm looking for tools here to help you. At the same time, the city has very valid reasons for wanting to prevent people from putting homes like this on small tracts of land. I'm guessing that your site here doesn't have access to water or sewer either?
We have put a well, and we have put septic on there also.
Yeah, and that's part of the thing that from a zoning application, the city, that's why that there's limitations, is for these reasons.
I would like to comment, in this particular area, it is extremely rural.
Yes, it is.
Extremely rural, and I think that makes it unique in terms of the application out there. Plus, there are other mobile homes out in the area, and I feel that I could support this particular application, although I may be in the minority. But I do think the uniqueness is the ruralness of the area. I don't think it's fully developed, is it? How many tracts are even occupied right now in that two-street area?
The one to the east of us is still unoccupied, and actually we'd like to know who owns that, because we'd actually like to buy that one and clear that off if possible. We have drove around numerous times. There's 10, 15, 20 places that we've seen, I don't know how many acres is there. But yeah, there's quite a bit that, there's nothing on. There's an old barn actually behind us, and how it got there, I don't know either. So
I appreciate that as well. One other consideration, just to get this out there, that I feel like I would be enabling this misleading misrepresentation conduct from these realtors. So I feel like this board would allow that to continue if people can just come here in the future and just get a variance. Instead of holding these people accountable, they just come get a variance. And so, I feel like the board would be enabling that type of behavior, and I'm not particularly comfortable with that. I'm not saying I'm particularly against the application or for it, but that's just another consideration in my mind.
And that's my frustration too, is that, and we've heard these cases before, where, somebody feels like, a use was represented to them, and they trusted that professional, whether it be a realtor, and there was either not a disclosure, not a clear disclosure, or you sign a document that's, difficult to read or comprehend, and it leaves a consumer in a position sometimes of needing a variance or finding themselves in this situation. And they didn't keep a secret, it doesn't sound like, what their intended use was. And the realtor was either uninformed or simply, was willing to say whatever was necessary to allow the transaction to close. And I think that, there should be some recourse for the consumer. It's the same thing we run into things, an older consumer will want a covered parking in front of their home, and some guy will come out and take their $800, build it into the setback, and then they end up before us. And they've done everything they knew to try to do the right thing, and I believe this woman has too. So I'm with you. I don't want to be an enabler. I don't want to create a scenario where, this just keeps happening and happening. What we'd like to do is have something happen. The underlying problem is, first, making sure that when you buy that property, you know what the limitations are, and that there's a full disclosure when that real estate contract and when that closing occurs. You know. Is there some way that we could condition it to her ownership or something like that so that it would revert back?
But the only condition that I'm aware of, and I'd have to defer to municipal council on this, is just, we can do time limitations, right? I mean, that's, but I don't know, what that's going to accomplish here, is the problem. We don't have a tool to remedy this, and I hate that. I wish we did.
Well, I mean, in that regard, I think, a year or two is not going to be a reasonable accommodation here, but a 5-year terminates after 5 years or something, or reassess after 5 years or something like that. I think then we're starting to talk about something that's the minimum necessary to alleviate the hardship.
Well, but even if you've put a time limitation, and I'm not saying that you would do this, but if I'm a person who's got that temporary deal that the city is sort of the ones manning the clock on, I'm trying to get away from it, which means we're going to put somebody else potentially in the seat of being back here when the clock runs out, and John calls and says the 5 years are up, you've got to come back and get another variance, and now we've got another person in here. So it's just this is a bad situation.
If that's what it takes, I'll do it.
I mean, I think adequate diligence would, in 5 years for the new buyer or something, would prevent that. And they know they're only getting it for 2 years or something.
I don't plan on moving. I'm sorry. I have put my whole heart, I have put my savings into this, and I have nowhere else to go. Really, I don't. So if you want me to come back in 5 years, I'll come back in 5 years.
Board members?
I'm going to move for a variance, limiting it to 5 years because of the unique circumstances. I don't like this. I agree that the realtor is responsible for this. But I think this is an unusual circumstance, and so I move approval, limiting it to 5 years.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the variance for case 14486 for a period of 5 years. Please cast your votes, please. The application is approved.
Thank you.
I would highly encourage you to seek legal counsel
That's what I was
from someone.
fixing to go find out what I can do because, like I said, I've never actually bought property before. And like I said, I specifically wanted to put a trailer house on it, and he knew it.
Yeah. I would also encourage you not to put somebody else back in your circumstances.
Oh, God, no.
Yep.
Oh, God, no. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Item number 11, case number 14487, application for a special exception to allow a mobile home to serve as a temporary second dwelling to relieve a medical hardship in the AA Agricultural District located at 12,425 Southeast 89.
Good afternoon, board members. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Brian Pearson. My address is 12425 Southeast 89th, and I'm here for to get another trailer put out on my property for my ailing parents. My dad has seizures and dementia and all that. So he has bad strokes. My mom is in really bad health. And right now I'm like 30 minutes away from where they live. So she's called me several times to help get them up off the ground or something. And it takes me 20, 30 minutes to get over there. If I could get them both out at my place, it'd be 2
This is the first application that you've presented for medical hardship, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And I would note that the application seems to satisfy the conditions that are outlined in our staff report. I should have mentioned this to the last person. I feel bad, John, if you'd follow up with them. Just make sure you understand you've still got to confirm and comply, with the setbacks, heights, off-street requirements. There are things you have to comply with, even if we grant this and you're aware of those things, or you know.
Yes, sir. I've had the trailer company out looking, the people that will set the trailer, and they've done all that.
Okay. And you're requesting the special exception for a period of 3 years, is that correct?
3 or 5, whichever. I don't. It's up to you guys.
Yeah.
Again.
3. 3
Yeah,
is the
that's the one that here, right?
Oh,
That's what I thought, yeah.
Yeah, 3 years, sir.
Just one comment, too. It's fine for, whoever you're buying the trailer from to advise you on compliance issues, but as you've just heard, sometimes that's not always the final authority. Please talk to the city.
Yep.
Before you make the final decision on where that thing is set, and make sure that you are fully in compliance.
Yeah.
Don't trust a salesman from a...
Right. I just got them out there so I'd have a little bit when I came in front of you guys, what it was.
That's fine, but just make sure that you're in compliance with the city, and don't accept the word without checking with the city and making sure that you're fully in compliance in terms of the location of that.
I would agree 100% with Mr. Austin that you need to talk to the city to make sure that you meet all of the other requirements so that you don't have to appear here for yet another variance for some reason.
Yes, sir.
Is there anyone else who wanted to be heard on this matter today? Board members?
Motion to approve the application.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the special exception for case number 14487 for a period of 3 years. Please cast your votes. And the application is approved.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, ladies.
Item number 12, case number 14488, request for a variance to the maximum number of and display area for accessory signs in the C3 Community Commercial District located at 3015 West Memorial Road.
I'm Tom Parker. I'm 12017 at Northwest 138th in Piedmont, and I'm here to talk about our wooden sculptures, our bear sculptures, and also our wooden sailboat. We started out with the city and got it approved, and through the Arts Commission, we had them commissioned, spent a lot of money on the bears, and somewhere along the way it got deemed that they were signage. So we're here to apply for a variance so we could get our bears out. They don't say black bear on them or anything like that. They're just beautiful wooden sculptures that are local to the area. We had them a sailboat for Lake Hefner, fishermen, things like that. We just recently did Midwest City with a beautiful F-16 with a bear pilot. It's about 10 foot wide, and our guests love them. There's various pictures. They're all over social media, so they're kind of an element to our Black Bear Diner. So I'm here to hopefully get your approval on that.
And except for the fact that they flash in neon, there's no signage on them. Am I understanding that correctly?
No neon.
Oh, okay.
They're very, laid back, and a couple of them are only like 5 feet tall. They're just placed in various spots around the building.
I'm curious, would you object at all to a limitation that the variance be limited to as presented in the application? I think something that concerned me when I reviewed this, frankly, on a personal level, I think this being considered signage is silly, but I didn't write the ordinance, I just have to enforce it. Having said that, if we grant the variance the way that it's prepared, we're essentially allowing someone to come back in potentially later on and have access to 184 feet of actual signage. And I really don't want to do that. So would you object if the board members saw fit to put a limitation to the variance being granted as you've presented it in your application?
I'm not sure exactly what was presented.
You're going to be limited to the excess signage amount being applied to the sculptures, the art sculptures.
Yes.
The bears.
To the bears.
Just the bears and the sailboat. That's all we're asking.
Try not to discriminate against other potential animals. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, there won't be any other.
That's my suggestion, board members. I believe this gentleman in the back is here in support as well, so unless Cindy's objecting, is there anybody else that wants to be heard on this matter?
I move approval of this, limiting it to the bears and the sailboat.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the variance request for case number 14488, limiting the variance to the items presented in the application, bears and a sailboat.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Good luck. Thank you. That is the last item. Are there additional items or communications and reports from board members or municipal councilor? Citizens to be heard. I'm looking at you, fella. Seeing none, if there's no other business, even though we don't need one, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
I'll second.
And we are adjourned.